I've never been as happy owning my own egg-laying chickens as I am now. It's October 2023, and here in South Africa, we have a crisis. There's bird flu all over the place, so people are not getting eggs, people are not getting chicken meat. I mean, who would have thought? The prices had already skyrocketed, and here I am with my own eggs. I am so grateful. In this video, I'm going to show you how you can raise your own layer chickens in your backyard. It is really not difficult, and I'm going to help you to do it. My name is Bridget, and this is the Sherwood Urban Farm. The first step to starting to raise your chickens in your backyard is choosing the correct breed. Now, when we started on our chicken journey, I was given some chickens. I called them barn chickens because they were not of any particular breed. My friend had her chickens laid eggs and they hatched out, and so she gave me some chickens. I mean, she had to run around her small holding to get them because they used to roost in the trees at night. They were just these wild feral birds. So I got them for free and I was very happy. And after a while realized that these chickens would lay a couple of eggs and then they would proceed to go broody. What is going broody? Well, that is when they decide that they are now going to hatch these eggs out. They will then puff themselves up, be quite aggressive, and want to sit and nest on the eggs to brood them out. And then they don't lay eggs. And in the meantime, you're feeding them. So then you have to remove them from the nest if you do not. Well, we didn't have a rooster, so you need to have a rooster to be able to hatch out chicks. And oh man, then it takes so first you got to snap them out of that. That's a whole story on its own. And then you need to get them to stop being broody and start laying. And that whole process is like a month and a half, which you're still feeding. Then I decided, okay, I am going to do a bit more research on this for the next lot of chickens that I'm going to get. And I'm so grateful because a friend of mine, when we had a homeschooling co-op, organized for us to go to university, and they had the black Australorp birds, and I got 2 black Australorps for free. Well, I tell you, those birds, they just lay and lay and lay. Then I was like, okay, I'm on to this. These are amazing birds. They are your dual purpose birds, so you can eat them if you like, but we don't eat our layers because they get names and we get quite attached to them. So we don't eat our layer hens. They're very big and they lay a lot. So of your heritage breed chickens, the black Australorp is of the heritage breed chickens. These are chickens, as far as I know, that were bred in about the 1800s, and they are a specific breed, and they will have shows, and they got to look like this and that and whatever. So ours are the black Australorps. The other chickens that I really like are the Lomond Browns. I somehow can't remember how I stumbled upon them. I can't remember how. Anyway, they are not heritage breed chickens. These ones are performance, I think you would call them performance chickens. They are layers, and often they will use them in the egg production in those what I call egg factories. You can't call that a farm, where they are all cooped up and it's just terrific. So they are used in proper breeding. They're much smaller birds, which means that they will eat less than a bigger bird, obviously, and they are laying machines. They just lay eggs. Look, with your Australorps, I think you're going to get about 300 eggs a year. I mean, that is amazing. The Lomond Browns will give more. They will lay, the one girl we have, she was molting her feathers. That's when they change feathers and get new ones in, and she was still laying. She looked terrible. She looked like she'd been dragged at the back of a bakkie. But she lay her egg, and she lays nice big eggs, as big as what the Australorps lay. And then I couldn't find new replacement ones, and I have a friend, and she has Lomond Browns and Rhode Island Reds, and she has got Leghorns. She's got a Leghorn rooster, as far as I know. And so she gave me some fertile eggs. Now the reason why I couldn't find replacements is because of load shedding in South Africa. So all the people that I used to buy from have packed up that business because the incubators are these big ones. They feed them with eggs, and then there's load shedding. And these guys are not always very wealthy that they can have battery backups and everything. So now you find it really difficult to find replacements for your chickens. But nonetheless, so my friend gave me some eggs, and out of that we only got 2. So we've got a Rhode Island red chicken, and then she is just amazing. She's also a heritage chicken, and she lays a lot, so I'm very happy with her. And then we have a cross. We suspect she is a Lomond Brown cross with a Leghorn, because she's got quite a bit of white in the back, and just the way she looks, and her grey legs. So she's definitely a cross, but still she lays the most amazing eggs. So it's really important when you're choosing what breed of chicken you're going to get, unless you're going to get a lot of chickens and you don't care about the eggs, which is why I've got my chickens for eggs, then I would do my research, and I would look to see which chickens lay the most eggs, because you get really nice looking chickens, but then they're laying like 180 eggs a year. I thought getting a South African breed of chicken like a Boschfelder would be fantastic, because they should be tough and not get diseases and things. They don't lay a lot. They're those ones that will lay like 180 eggs a year, and then that just defeats the whole point, because you're feeding them and they're not laying. This brings me to housing. So you want to, before you get your chickens, you want to get housing sorted out for them. In my last video I did show you the chicken coops, so I'm going to cover it again just for those of you who haven't watched my other video, my last video. Right, so you want to have housing, chicken coop, that protects them from predators. Here in the suburbs we don't have many predators. I think if you live in a small holding, then in South Africa in particular, you will probably have aerial predators. We've had like a harrier hawk. There's a resident harrier hawk. It sat on the quail coop once, but it never come here to where the chickens are. So there will be aerial predators, and things like mongoose, badgers, snakes probably, but I don't have those problems. That's the other advantage of having a little suburban farm, is that it's very seldom that we're going to get those kind of predators. We'll get a boomslang goes through the trees, but they go through the trees and they won't come into the coops to come and try and get the chickens. So at least we don't have those problems. So in your coop you would like to have a nesting box, because that's why you have the chickens, because you want a place for them to lay their eggs. So they prefer to have a like a dark place. We just use 20-litre buckets. We took the lid and then cut it so that the bedding doesn't, because they like to scratch and settle themselves, so that they don't kick that out, so it stays in, and then they climb in that. It faces towards the wall, so they've got privacy, and they love it. We had more than one in the coop, but they only took the one. They wouldn't lay in the other bucket. So those are our nesting boxes. You can get really fancy nesting boxes, but these work for me. They really affordable and it works. At night when they go up to roost, then they like to perch, and so we have got 2 perches. Apparently each bird needs about 30 to 50 centimeters for perching and for comfortable perching. So you just got to make sure, depending on how many birds you have, that they each got a place to roost on at night. Food. Now I have tried all kinds of different ways of feeding the chickens, trying to sort of save money and so on. The best thing to do is to feed them a complete feed. So that is layer pellets. I don't use the mash. The mash is like this powdery stuff. I find that there's always stuff left at the bottom of the trough which they can't get at, and to me that's just a complete waste of money. So I give them the pellets, and it's got the grit in it which they need in their crop. No, not in their crop, in their gizzard, yeah, to be able to digest their food. It also has enough calcium. So like it is, it's a complete feed. I feed them 120 grams per bird per day, and I buy a 50 kilogram bag of feed, and then we keep it in this big bin, which has like this closing mechanism there for any kind of rats or vermin or whatever else, so that it can't get there. And then I had tried all kinds of other kinds of feed, like maize and seed. This, I know, I have peace of mind. I don't have to try and supplement their food. I do, however, they get kitchen scraps and they get their eggshells. So they will eat the eggshells as they feel they need it. If they feel they need more calcium, they will eat the eggshells as well, of the shells that we get, not their own eggs. You do get that, but I don't have chickens that eat their own eggs, which is amazing, and I'm so grateful. Yeah, so the feed that I get is actually from a equine feed place called Equifeeds, and their feed is not medicated, which is exactly what I want. So that is something to consider. If you can source feed which is not medicated, in my opinion, that's first prize. If you can't, that's also okay. At least your chickens are, they're free range, they're getting the sun, they can scratch about, they can be chickens. That's very important. Water. So we have two types of water feeders. The water is really important for chickens. They need fresh water. Look, we've got a duck as well, so often our water is a bit muddy, but I don't think that makes any difference. As long as there is water available, it must just not be gross water. Our two systems are, they're both homemade. You can obviously go and buy from the co-op or something. You can go and buy a nice chicken waterer. In this system, what we did was I took a 10 liter bucket, and then I drilled 2 holes at sort of midway the level of the dish that it's in, and then right at the bottom, so that the water will drain out completely as well. And then you fill it with water, and as the water empties out of the holes, very important, you've got to put the lid on, and you've got to secure the lid. The holes also have to be big enough. If they're too small, then the system doesn't work. So about a centimeter hole is fine. And then once you've put the lid on, the water will run out until it reaches the level of the hole, and then it stays there. So as they're drinking and the water level goes down, then it will just fill up again and it will stop by the hole. So that works really well for us. The other one, the first one I ever made, I took a gutter, and then I put edges on the gutter, and then I got a floating valve, and then I have a bucket. So then I fill the bucket, and then there's a pipe that goes towards the valve, and then as the valve drops, then it opens, or as the float switch sort of drops, then the valve opens and it fills up the trough. And that also works great. And then you want them protected from the elements. The worst thing for a chicken is to be wet and to be wet and have wind on them. So the way I position my coops is that the opening is not, so when they rest and nesting at night or roosting, then the prevailing wind is a southeaster or a southwester. That's the winds that we get. So the coop is positioned so that either way, the wind won't be blowing on them. They will be protected from that, and then obviously they're undercover so they won't get wet. Now, as I mentioned in my previous video, keeping chickens is just such an easy thing to do. You really just have to make sure they have food and water, and then their place is clean. Now, when I say their place is clean, all I do is I lay down wood shavings, I lay down throughout the whole run. I keep mine in a run. I don't like mine foraging about in the garden and free ranging in that way, because they will just wreck your garden. But in this system, it's called a deep bedding system. So I take wood shavings and grass clippings, and I'll throw over leaves and spinach leaves over the fence to them, and so this lot builds up, and then they scratching about and in their coop and that. where they nest when at night they poop a lot. So it lands on the deep bedding, and then in the mornings they're busy scratching it about, but there's absolutely no smell. I don't have any stinky smell. In previous coop that or the previous design in my big coop, I had a platform, so then they would roost and then the poop would land on the platform, and then I had wood shavings there, and then I'd have to clean that off. Oh, the flies were always there, it would stink, it was terrible. With this system, I'm creating compost, and there is no smell. They also have not had any problems with parasites since then. Since I've changed the system that they are on a deep bedding system, I don't have any parasite problems. So if you're going to have chickens and you're able to move them, you have a coop that is like a chicken tractor which you can move around on the grass every day, that's first prize. But if you can't, you don't have enough space, like I don't have enough space for that, then you keep them in one place. But then it is vital that you have this deep bedding system, because the parasites, all their stuff is just getting scratched up, and that they're not on the soil, hard soil, on their poop all the time. That is where the problem comes in. Then they start to get sick. I haven't had the common things that you will get for with chickens is scaly mites. It's these tiny microscopic things that mites that go underneath their scales. Having this deep bedding system, I have not had that again for years since I've started this. And chicken lice, they don't go into humans, so you don't have to worry about that. Having the deep bedding system, haven't had a problem with that either. And then you also get these two types of mice. They like to get into, there's one that comes on at night and then it sucks them and then it goes back. Now when I had that platform thing, oh my, they were always in there. There was just always these little grey bugs, and you would see them in the mornings. They like red because they've been feeding off of them all night, and then they go off at night in the morning, and then they go and hide in all the crevices and that. And they were always on that platform thing. So once I'd gotten rid of that, there was my problem solved. Look, those things will come in with your wild birds. So that is just what it is. But since I've had this deep bedding system, I have had no problems with any kind of pests or parasites on my birds. Another thing to mention for pests and diseases and parasites on chickens is dust bathing. So what is dust bathing? I had a friend actually comment on my last video, what is dust bathing? It's almost like the word says, dust bathing. So dust meaning like sand. So they will bathe themselves in the sand, and it's quite funny to watch. They lie on their backs almost, and they scratch it and they get it under their feathers, and if you look on them, if you lift their feathers, you'll see on their skin actually there's a lot of sand and stuff. But that is for like parasites. It kills off the parasites. If they don't have a place to dust bath, then they will be prone to getting parasites. So with a deep bedding system, you might have to bring in sand. I've never had to do that, because especially when it's quite dry, then they will scratch and scratch and scratch until they get down to the dry sand, and then they will just bath themselves like that. But they must just be able to have an area where they can dust bath to help themselves with the predators. So when that joyous day arrives and you go and look in the nesting box and you get your first eggs, well, I tell you, there isn't a feeling quite like that. It is important to remember to collect your eggs daily. Certain breeds of chickens, if they see the eggs are starting to gather there, then they will go broody. I haven't had that problem yet, but what we do, if we have forgotten, is often then they will step on it, especially the Australorps. They're quite heavy birds, they're about like 3 kilograms, so then sometimes when they're getting in, then they will step on the eggs, and then that is a waste. So you want to collect your eggs daily. If there is a bit of poop on the egg, then you can sort of wipe it off a bit with a damp cloth, but it's not really advised to wash the eggs, because they have this protective coating over them naturally. So if you're going to wash it, then you're going to wash it off, and then the shell is porous, and then it will allow, stuff like non-beneficial bacteria to enter into the egg, and then you could get rotten eggs. So you don't want to do that. You don't need to wash the eggs off. They have this natural protective coating on them anyways. Like I said earlier, chickens are so easy to look after. they're much easier than dogs, cats, or anything. You don't have to walk them, anything like that. However, it is to your own advantage to just go and spend some time in the run every now and then. Pick your birds up, have a look at, just separate their feathers, have a look just to see that there aren't any lice or bugs that are on them, just so that you keep your eye on them. Also, if you see a hen that her head is all in like this and she's just looking all like sad and sorry for herself, that's generally a sign that all is not well in her life. And so they will hunch up, and you'll just see there's something wrong. Something that could happen is an impacted crop, and it is relatively easy to treat. We will use a teaspoon of bicarb in a cup of water, mix that in, and then syringe some of that down into there. Not too much, you don't want to drown the bird, but you just little bits, and then massage the crop, and then after a day or two that will sort itself out. But you have to just be there. Like there's a saying, there's no fertilizer like the farmer's footprints. So it's the same with keeping chickens. You do want to just keep your eye on them. It's not like you have to go every day and examine every bird every day, but occasionally do go and pick them up, and also they will be tame for it. If you're in the coop and feeding them out your hand and so on, then it will be easier to catch them, and they will then you will be able to keep your eye on them to make sure that they don't get sick. Well, that wraps up my guide on how to start your own chicken farm in your backyard. If you have any questions, then please leave them in the comments below. Otherwise, I hope you have a lovely day further, and I'll catch you in the next video.
Where's the rest of the Scolies?